Welcome back to the deep dive. We are trading the snowy mountains for the sandy beaches today, specifically diving into Stuart, Florida.
Sounds nice.
It does. It's got all the check boxes. Tropical climate, a cost of living index that looks great at 99.5.
Right below the national average.
Exactly. And of course, the zero state income tax. I mean, it sounds like financial paradise, doesn't it?
It certainly looks that way on paper.
But we know that often the biggest financial challenges are hidden beneath the surface of that shiny brochure.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today is to move past that superficial appeal. We want to uncover the specific, sometimes kind of brutal financial realities.
The sticker shocks.
Yes, the sticker shocks, the lifestyle taxes, the legal hurdles, things that catch new Florida retirees completely off guard. We're essentially building you a bulletproof budget. Okay, let's unpack this.
And that strategic approach is it's everything. Stuart is beautiful, no doubt.
Right.
But the difference between, say, a stressed retirement and a successful one, it really comes down entirely to how realistically you budget.
Budgeting for things that act differently there.
Exactly. Expenses that behave very differently in Florida than they might, back home. We need to be specific about where those costs jump up.
Okay, let's start with foundation. Housing. The median home value in Stuart, it's just under $384,000.
Right.
Which honestly, for coastal Florida, feels like a bit of fresh air. It suggests you can get a foothold there without the Miami or Palm Beach price tag.
Sure. It looks more accessible initially.
Yeah, and we even see some negotiation opportunities. Like, I saw a recent condo listing that had a $28,000 price cut. But I know that purchase price is often the least of a Floridian homeowner's worries.
Oh, absolutely.
What's the real, annual cost of keeping that roof over your head?
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. People do their research right. They find Martin County property taxes are, well, moderate, around 0.87%.
Seems manageable.
It does. But they completely overlook the coastal hazard insurance premiums. This is often the biggest surprise element in the entire budget.
How bad can it actually get, though? I mean, everyone pays homeowners insurance, right? It's a standard thing.
It is, but when you factor in the hurricane risks specifically,
Yeah.
well, we are talking about annual premiums that frequently range from, say, $3,000 on the low end.
Okay.
So soaring up to maybe $8,000 annually for full coverage.
$8,000
A year.
annually.
Right.
So if you're coming from the Midwest or somewhere less coastal, that single line item can be just devastating to your monthly cash flow planning.
Wow. $8,000 is almost $700 a month
Yeah.
just for insurance. Someone moving from, I don't know, Ohio might have budgeted maybe $200 for that.
Exactly. It dramatically changes the math on that $384,000 median home price, doesn't it?
It really does.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, the essential takeaway is this. You must budget, realistically, about 2.5% to 3% of your home's value annually.
Just for taxes and insurance combined.
Just for those two. That's the realistic baseline for ownership in this kind of environment.
Yeah.
If you ignore that rule, well, you will face financial shock the moment you close on that house. Okay, that's the true baseline then. Now let's pivot to physical health, obviously critical for retirees. We know Florida's healthcare costs are generally high premiums, 15 to 20% higher than the national average?
That's right. They are definitely higher.
So how does that translate when we look at specific coverage options for the, 65 and over crowd?
Well, when you transition to Medicare, you face a strategic choice. Many people opt for a Medicare Supplement Plan G.
The Medigap plans.
Right, Medigap. Plan G is popular because it minimizes most of your out-of-pocket costs that original Medicare doesn't cover. People often call it the gold standard of supplements.
But it costs more, especially in Florida.
Exactly. In Florida, Plan G often starts around $204 monthly per person.
Okay.
Alternatively, you've got Medicare Advantage plans. Now, they usually have lower monthly premiums, which looks attractive.
But there's a catch.
There often is. They frequently limit your provider networks, especially here. So if you need a specific specialist, or you just want the flexibility to choose your doctor anywhere in the state, well, you often have to absorb that higher Plan G premium to maintain that choice.
Right. And we can't forget the longer-term realities that every retiree has to plan for. What about things like assisted living or memory care costs right there in the Stuart area?
Yeah, we have to face those potential realities head on. Assisted living in Stuart averages. Well, it's a staggering $5,885 monthly.
Wow. Over $70,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. That necessitates some serious planning, whether it's long-term care insurance or just a really robust self-funding strategy.
And that's before prescriptions.
That's right. Beyond that, even with good prescription drug coverage like Medicare Part D, the average retiree still spends an additional, say, $1,200 to $2,400 annually on medications that aren't fully covered.
These aren't optional expenses, are they?
Not at all. These are baseline figures that absolutely positively must be locked into that retirement budget. No wiggle room.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. People move to Stuart for the fun, right? The golf, the fishing, the sailing, the lifestyle.
That's the big draw for many.
But the irony is that many retirees seem to underestimate how quickly the cost of actually maintaining that active lifestyle can erode their savings, especially since they finally have the time to enjoy it all.
It's true. The fun is definitely not cheap down there.
So what kind of price tag are we putting on that famous Martin County fun? Let's talk specifics.
Okay, let's look at golf. Huge draw, as you said, memberships. Well, they can range from maybe $2,500 annually for access to public facilities.
Okay, that's not too bad.
But if you want that premium private experience, like Sailfish Point or similar clubs, you could be looking at initiation fees plus annual dues that easily hit $15,000 annually.
$15,000 a year just to play golf.
Just for golf.
Yeah.
That's a serious commitment.
It really highlights that if you don't budget specifically for the lifestyle you moved for, you might end up just staring at the water instead of sailing on it.
Exactly. And speaking of sailing, boating costs are notorious. On paper, marina slips might average a modest $180 to $350 a month. Seems doable. But when you factor in the annual insurance, the routine engine and hull maintenance, finding specialized marine mechanics, the fuel. Oh, the fuel.
Yeah.
The total annual commitment for owning even a modest, say, 25-foot center console boat can easily add $8,000 to $12,000 to your budget.
$8,000 to $12,000 extra per year?
That's the realistic cost of ownership, not just the slip fee.
That's a huge potential drain on disposable income.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about just getting around. We know public transit is pretty limited there, right?
Yeah.
So vehicle ownership is basically mandatory.
Pretty much, yeah.
The transportation cost index is low. It's 90, which seems great. But I suspect that's incredibly misleading because the cost of maintaining and insuring a vehicle there is surprisingly high.
It's kind of a double whammy. First, Florida has some of the highest vehicle insurance rates in the country. We're looking at around $2,560 annually per driver.
Ouch. Okay.
Second, that lovely pervasive salt air we all enjoy. It acts like a hidden corrosion tax on your car.
Huh. A salt tax. I like that.
It dramatically accelerates rust and requires more frequent maintenance, washing, detailing. It can increase your actual vehicle upkeep costs by maybe 25 to 30% compared to living somewhere inland. You basically have to budget for the environment actively trying to destroy your car.
That's a great way to put it, budgeting against the salt tax. So if we bundle all this lifestyle stuff together, dining out, socializing, pursuing those hobbies, golf, boating, whatever it is, what's a reasonable monthly number retirees need to be prepared for?
Well, if you're actively socializing, maybe dining out frequently at some quality spots. You mentioned places like the Gafford where entrees start around $28, or maybe the Riverwalk Cafe, average meal $18.
Yeah, nice places.
Those discretionary funds can disappear fast. We generally estimate that a pretty active social calendar pushes the total monthly recreational and social budget somewhere between $300 and $600.
$300 to $600 a month just for fun and friends.
Yeah, and many people find that simply maintaining their social connections, lunches, coffees, maybe club activities, that alone can cost $200 to $500 monthly.
So what does this all really mean?
It means budgeting realistically for the fun part is absolutely essential. Otherwise, the very lifestyle you moved to Florida for could become financially restrictive and, frankly, lead to a lot of disappointment.
Okay, let's transition now to the biggest financial draw, the reason so many people make the move in the first place. That zero state income tax.
The big one.
It is. For a higher income retiree, let's say someone with $80,000 in income from pensions, maybe some investments, this saves them thousands, right? Approximately $2,400 to $4,000 annually, depending on the tax rate of the state they left.
That's absolutely correct. It is significant savings on the surface.
There's always a but.
Well, strategy is just crucial to make sure those savings aren't sort of negated elsewhere. Remember, Social Security only replaces about 40% of pre-retirement income for the average person.
So you're relying heavily on your own savings and investments.
Heavily. Plus, Florida does have compensatory taxes. It has to get revenue somehow. The most obvious one is the sales tax. It's 7% in Martin County.
Right, so the overall tax burden isn't zero.
Definitely not zero. Which brings us to maximizing the federal tax planning that this lack of state income tax enables.
And the source material we looked at highlights one strategy as absolutely critical for future financial safety. That's the Roth conversion, isn't it?
This is truly the key for protecting your wealth from potentially much higher taxes down the road. The core problem for many retirees is something called RMDs, required minimum distributions.
Right, the mandatory withdrawals.
Mandatory annual withdrawals from your traditional pre-tax retirement accounts, like your old 401ks and traditional IRAs. And those kick in starting at age 73 currently.
And the issue is that those R&Ds are taxed.
They're taxed as ordinary income. So when those RMDs hit, maybe combined with your Social Security income, that sudden non-optional influx of taxable distributions can easily push a retiree into the 22% federal tax bracket, maybe even higher, for the rest of their lives.
Yikes. So the strategy is basically to pay tax at a lower rate now to avoid a much higher rate later.
Firstly, pay the tax voluntarily on your terms while you're likely in a lower bracket.
And how do we execute that efficiently, maximizing the benefits of being in Florida specifically?
Okay, the smart strategy is all about timing. We generally encourage converting assets. That means moving money from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA and paying the income tax on that conversion now during your gap years.
Gap years.
Yeah, that gap is typically the window between when you actually retire, maybe in your early or mid-60s, and age 70 or 72 before RMDs start and before your Social Security benefits potentially maximize your taxable income.
Okay, so you have a few years of potentially lower income.
Exactly. So by converting, say, approximately $50,000 annually during this period, you can often keep your total taxable income low enough to stay safely within the 12% federal tax bracket.
Then the Florida advantage.
Yeah. The Florida advantage is huge here. Since Florida has no state income tax, you completely avoid paying state tax on that large conversion amount. If you did that same $50,000 conversion in a high-tax state like New York or California, you'd owe thousands in state taxes on top of the federal tax.
Got it. So you're saving potentially thousands per conversion just by being a Florida resident.
It's a really powerful but time-sensitive window where you maximize the use of that 12% federal bracket limit without any state tax penalty.
That makes the benefit crystal clear. The Florida move isn't just about saving state taxes today, it's about actively optimizing your federal tax bill for the next 20 or 30 years.
Precisely. And, because you're not worried about state income or state capital gains taxes, Florida residents can also often be a bit more aggressive or maybe simpler with other federal planning strategies.
Like what?
Like tax loss harvesting, for instance. Strategically selling losing investments to offset capital gains from winning ones. Without a state income tax layer to worry about, the logistical and financial complications of maximizing that strategy are significantly simplified. You only focus on the federal rules.
Okay, so all those tax benefits sound wonderful, but they are entirely contingent on one critical thing: proving you are a legitimate Florida resident.
Absolutely critical.
And this isn't just a matter of, changing your address with the post office, is it? What's fascinating here is the really strict legal hoops you have to jump through, not just for Florida, but maybe more importantly, for the state you just left.
That's the real kicker, isn't it? The IRS, and often more importantly, aggressive state tax authorities from your former high tax residence will scrutinize your move very closely.
So what do you need to do?
To properly establish residency, first, you absolutely must adhere to the 183-day rule. That means spending 183 days or more physically in Florida each year.
Half the year plus a day.
Minimum. And on top of that, you must establish clear domicile intent. That means things like registering to vote here, getting a Florida driver's license within 30 days, titling and registering your car here, declaring Florida as your primary residence on federal tax forms.
So it's not just moving your stuff, it's legally proving you've severed ties completely with your old home base.
Exactly, because your former state might try to challenge your residency status for up to 4 years after you relocate.
4 years. Wow.
Which means you need detailed, meticulous documentation for that entire period. We're talking utility bills showing consistent usage throughout the year, banking records showing local activity, even records of medical appointments, gym memberships, social activities, and Stuart.
You mean a paper trail?
Very clear paper trail. If you slip up, maybe spend too many days back north visiting family, your previous state could potentially argue you never truly left and that you owe them back taxes for those years. It's basically a 4-year audit preparedness plan you have to maintain.
That significantly raises the administrative burden of the move, doesn't it? Not just the financial cost.
It really does. It requires ongoing diligence.
Okay, let's pivot one last time to estate planning. Florida doesn't have a state estate tax, which is great news for many,
Big plus.
but there are some very specific kind of quirky legal rules down there that demand attention when you're drawing up wills and trusts.
Yeah, and this raises an important question, really about unintended consequences, especially for families. The two major complications tend to be Florida's homestead exemption rules and its unique forced heirship laws.
Okay, let's start with the forced heirship. That sounds restrictive. What does that mean for the average person who just wants to distribute their property the way they see fit?
Well, forced heirship basically means that Florida law restricts how a married person can distribute certain assets, specifically their primary residence, their homestead. It's designed primarily to protect the surviving spouse and any minor children.
So you can't just leave your house to anyone.
Not entirely freely if you're married or have minor kids. If you try to will your homestead property entirely to, say, someone other than your spouse, if you have one, the law might actually override your wishes to ensure the spouse gets rights to the property.
I can see how that gets complicated fast.
It's particularly problematic for blended families, people trying to ensure children from previous marriages inherit certain assets directly. Your will must be specifically drafted by a Florida estate planning attorney who understands these restrictions to make sure it holds up.
That's vital information, especially for those blended families navigating complex inheritances. What about the homestead exemption?
Right, so the homestead exemption itself is great while you're alive. It offers significant property tax relief and creditor protection.
But it causes issues after you pass.
It can complicate matters severely if your heirs, the beneficiaries inheriting the property, are not Florida residents themselves. The asset, the house, can become legally complex to handle if the beneficiaries live out of state, potentially affecting how it can be sold or managed.
So the bottom line is, don't just bring your old will.
Absolutely not. These issues really confirm that standard out-of-state trusts or wills often fail or create big problems in Florida. You absolutely need specialized Florida legal counsel to ensure your final wishes are actually honored and costly family disputes are avoided down the line.
Okay, so to kind of synthesize this whole deep dive into Stuart, Florida, the big takeaway seems clear. Don't confuse Florida's zero income tax with a zero cost retirement. It's just not the case.
Not at all.
Retirement readiness here seems to need to start with really comprehensive planning, maybe at least 5 years out, and it focuses on maybe 3 core actions.
I think that's fair. Action 1. Budget realistically for those non-negotiable hidden costs we talked about.
Right, the housing and healthcare shocks.
Exactly. That means sticking to that 2.5% to 3% combined annual budget for property taxes and that potentially high hurricane insurance.
Yeah.
And fully accounting for the higher healthcare premiums and, importantly, that dedicated lifestyle budget, the golf, the boat, the dinners out.
Okay, action 1, realistic budget. Action 2.
Action 2. Use that state income tax void strategically. Implement your federal Roth conversion strategy. Convert assets during those lower income gap years.
Between retirement and RMDs?
Right. Stay in that 12% federal bracket if possible. Shield future wealth from higher taxes and save thousands because you're not paying state tax on the conversion itself.
Makes sense. And action 3?
Action 3. Recognize that moving here isn't a DIY project from a legal and financial standpoint. You really need specialized guidance.
To navigate things like?
To navigate the specific Florida Medicare supplement market, understand those unique and tricky estate planning complications like homestead and forced heirship, and critically, meet and maintain those strict requirements for residency to keep your tax benefits.
So professional guidance is key.
It's really necessary, I think, to truly maximize those tax savings you move for in the first place.
Yeah.
And also to prevent the fund from accidentally bankrupting you, or the legal fine print from basically undoing your entire financial plan.
Absolutely. And maybe, as you consider making the move, think about the long game of proving your status. That final provocative thought for you, the listener, is this. Imagine maintaining that meticulous, ongoing record-keeping we discussed. Not just the initial stack of paperwork for the move itself, but diligently proving every single utility bill, maybe every social gathering, every doctor's appointment, for 4 consecutive years after you relocate. All just to safeguard your Florida tax status from the state you left behind.
That level of sustained commitment.
That level of commitment, I think, really defines what it takes to be a truly successful Florida retiree. It's more than just buying a house near the beach.
Well said.
Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll catch you next time.